Strike through. Go Vandals, go mighty Vandals, come on and go Vandals, go. Come on, guys. Before your silver and your U-Up. Come on, you guys. I-D-A-H-O, Idaho, Idaho, go, go, go. Thank you so much. Oh, you didn't want to hear my voice. I have a terrible voice, so I turn it over to Coach Eck. Oh, with this? Let's go. There we go. Good finish.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I truly am honored to be the 36th head football coach here at the University of Idaho. And again, from my time here in the past and how I followed this place, I really do think this is a sleeping giant in FCS football. And there's great things ahead of this place. And I'm honored to be here with you guys, to be a part of it. And it's a partnership. We're going to need everybody. We're going to need the former players. Okay, we're going to need the alumni and the boosters. We certainly need our current players to buy in. But we're in this together. We have amazing administration here. And I'm very thankful to them. President Scott Green, Terry Golick, all the associate ADs that have been helping me out through this, Tim, Garrett, Matt, Jarek, and they've been wonderful to work with. And I think with the leadership here in place, great things are ahead for the U of I. Definitely want to thank my family who's here with me today, my wife Kimberly, and our 5 children, Quentin and Jackson, who were here with me the last time I was here back in 2004 through 2006. Jackson was actually born here in Moscow, and then the 3 ones I picked up since, Palmer and Maverick and Lola, we finally got a girl. So I got the entire offensive line there with 5 kids there. So we're very fortunate that way. You know, me getting here today really is a product of a lot of people who've invested and poured into me and helped me over the years, and I'm very thankful for that, and I want to make sure I thank some people. It starts with the people at South Dakota State, where I've spent the last 6 years. President Barry Dunn did an amazing job of supporting athletics, similar to what President Green's doing here. Justin Stell was an amazing AD to work with, and then John Stiglmeyer, who's a man I've learned a lot for. He's been the head coach there for 25 years, and I learned a lot about being a head coach. You know, he gave me a chance to be a Division I coordinator, which certainly has helped me get to where I am today. And I'll forever be indebted to the players I had there at South Dakota State. Again, you don't go to 3 semifinals out of 4 years unless you have a lot of great players. And forever thankful to those young men for their work and their efforts. The players are my why. That's why I coach, and the investment. And, I'm going to miss those guys, and hopefully we'll make them some Vandal fans when they're done being Jackrabbits. You can get to the game someday. But again, what those guys did for my family through their hard work, I'll never forget. Coaching. I grew up in a coaching family, and my parents were very important to me, Jay and Mary Beth, but especially my dad. He was a college basketball coach. Just happened as I grew up, my body became more of a pulling guard than a shooting guard, so I made that transition away from hoops to football. But he was very influential in me getting into coaching, and just a few of the coaches. I've worked for a lot of head coaches. I think I'll take a little bit from all of them. John Alexander was my high school coach at St. Pius X. Learned a lot from Coach. Barry Alvarez gave me a chance to play college football as a player, and then I stayed on as a graduate assistant with him. And he came into positions at University of Wisconsin where that was a sleeping giant. That inspired me a lot here, where there was things in place, but for whatever reason, a state flagship university for the whole state, but hadn't had the success that it probably should. And he was able to get it right, and it was through a lot of work, a lot of physicality on the line of scrimmage, getting the right kind of people who love football, and also igniting a fan base that was hungry to win. And I'll forever be grateful to Barry, and I know Terry got to spend quite a bit of time with Barry too and understands his plan. Jim Huber was the O-line coach. I learned a lot from playing with him there. From there, I went to Gary Barnett, and I learned a lot from Gary. I thought he was just great with the team, how he talked to the team and got the team to believe, which is very important. And Dave Warbley was the O-line coach I learned from. And then I got the opportunity when I was a young coach, my first full-time job was coming here to the University of Idaho. Nick Holt, I'll forever be thankful for bringing me here, giving me my first opportunity to coach position and be the O-line coach, probably before I was ready, but you learn a lot of hard lessons that way. And then Coach Erickson, what a legend at the University of Idaho. And that year I spent with him, when he kept me on, picked up a lot of nuggets, and I know he's still following this place closely and excited for it, being right up the road in Coeur d'Alene. A couple of other head coages, I mentioned Tom Sawyer, Stan Parrish, Don Rose, Mark Hendrickson, learned a lot from those guys. Aaron Keene was a guy who was the first guy who ever made me a coordinator and kind of, put me from coaching the O-line to a more leadership position. And again, his belief in me, definitely changed the course of my career. Todd Hoffner, we had a goofy situation there when I was at Mankato. He kept me on as the coordinator, and we had a change, and we had a great year. He led us to the national championship game in Division II, getting my taste of going far in the playoffs. And then Rob Ash learned a lot about being the CEO of a program and managing boosters. Did a wonderful job there, being involved with the administration and raising money at Montana State, and learned a lot from him. So there's been a lot of coaches that I'm going to borrow from. I've been fortunate in my career. I've been fortunate to have some adversity where I was on some times where coaches left for whatever reason to take different jobs. But I think that's helped me pick a little piece from everyone of what's going to make me a head coach today and put my own spin on things. The most important thing in our program is the players, okay, the current players. And I was very fortunate. I got to visit with those guys yesterday, mostly on Zoom because they were, spread across the country now since exams are over. But they are the program, okay? The players are the program. We're going to invest in those guys, okay? We're going to love in them. We're going to believe in them. We're going to hire coaches who are going to work on their behalf to help them through, the transition period that is being a young man from 18 to 23 years old when you're a college football player. And I think when you love people and you believe in them, you're going to get the best out of them, and you're going to be able to push them to accomplish things that they may not even know they can do themselves. One thing that's very important to me is attitude. Okay, we're going to preach both playing with an attitude. When you watch our guys play in the line of scrimmage, our O-line and D-line, you're going to see guys playing with an attitude, playing with an attacking, aggressive nature, but also a positive attitude. Okay, you have to go into things in life with perspective. And again, it's not always what happens to you, it's how you respond. And having the right attitude to respond when you have adversity is something that's going to be a life skill to take you through even beyond. Family is something that gets thrown around a lot in college athletics. I think like any relationship, you have to work on it. You have to invest time in the people in your program, from player to coach, from player to player, from coach to have great connections. But I think that's important. I think that's something important to spend that time of building those bonds, because one of the stronger things, motivations that I've seen in college football is when you want to play for the guy across from you. You don't want to let the guy down because you care about him so much. And that's something that we're going to preach here and really work on at the University of Idaho. Two other things that we're going to work hard to develop in our players that are going to be things that help us win and also help them in their lives beyond is accountability. You want guys who take care of their business, who do what they're supposed to do, both on and off the field, so that they're making you proud on the field by what they do, but also what they're doing in the Moscow community and around the state. And then toughness. Again, having that mental toughness, being able to deal with adversity, going to be able to just overcome the things that happen in the life that you don't expect, the hoops you have to jump through and the bumps that come up in the road. Having the right attitude to respond to that is very, very important. But again, I'm honored to be your head coach. I'm honored to have such a great turnout here today. And we need you. We're in this together. Coaches, players, administration, fans and alumni, boosters. It's competitive to be one of the top teams in FCS football. And again, I've been fortunate to have been in these FCS playoffs the last 6 years, and we're going to get Idaho back there soon. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take everybody pointing the arrows in the right direction and getting on the right course to success. And we need you. And again, we want former players. We want you guys coming back. We want you to be involved with the program. Okay, we want the fans and alumni to get involved. Make sure you're getting your season tickets, making sure you're signing up for the booster events around the state, because we need you involved. And again, the things to compete, the things you need at this level, having training table to feed the athletes and give them, the nutrition they need to put on great muscle and strength in the weight room. It doesn't come easy. It's stuff you have to work at and you got to fundraise for. So we need you all involved, but I'm so happy to be your leader and want to answer any questions that are out there for me. Thank you.
If this is a sleeping giant, what is it going to take to awaken him?
A lot of energy, a lot of passion, a lot of hard work, and we got to get started right away. And again, it's not, I told the players yesterday, I've watched a lot of the tape. I got to watch, the last, 4 weeks that I was in the FCS playoffs. The school I was at, we played 3 Big Sky teams. So I've seen a lot of the Big Sky teams on tape now recently, and I've seen, how Idaho competed against UC Davis, who was probably the 5th playoff team, and that was a 7-point game, a game that Idaho could have won. I saw how they competed against Montana State, who's playing in the national championship game, playing within 7 points, a game they could have won. So I don't think we're that far off. Now we need to get better. We got to improve, and we got to have, I think, the urgency to compete every day and to get better, and we got to have grit towards long-term goals. It just doesn't happen overnight, but the cupboard is not bare here. I think we're going to be able to get this thing going, and it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of commitment, but I think everything is in place here with the support to do that.
What were the factors that a university, the institution,
I think anytime you're at, the flagship university, the University of Idaho, I think there's a power in that. I think there's going to be, people in the state who dream up of being a Vandals, and I think that's a powerful thing. And I just played in the game or coached in the game 2 days ago, where there was a lot of good players from Montana and a lot of good players who were from South Dakota who played in that game. A lot of big time FCS, all conference, all American players. And I even looked up the population. There's about as many people in Idaho as there are in Montana and South Dakota combined, and that excites me. Now in this northern part of the country, you look at FCS football. 3 of the last 4 teams alive were North Dakota State, Montana, South Dakota State, all northern states, which we border those states. We're contiguous with those. And I think there's a lot in common in those states where you're like the weather outside today, not exactly beautiful for kids to be out running around. There's a few months of the year where kids are pent up inside, probably not as developed athletically as maybe a kid who's growing up in Florida or Texas or California, but that doesn't mean their end potential is any different. So I think that's an attractive thing. You look where the power structure right now of FCS football is, it's up in this northern region. You got to do a good job of developing players because they're probably not the most developed guys. The guys who are the most developed 18-year-olds, a lot of times are the ones who are going to Oklahoma and Texas and USC, but finding some guys that we can develop with our coaching staff through our nutrition program, through our weight program, and get those guys better over time. The fan base here too attracts me. I think this is a very passionate fan base that's hungry to win, wants to get behind the team. Again, I probably equate it to some of those Montana schools. I played, we played the other day in front of about 20,000 fans and 24 degrees at Montana State. And I know it's been a while since there's been a FCS playoff game in the Kibbie Dome, probably back to the mid-90s. I can't wait to see the turnout for a game like that, a big game late in the year like there. And the nice thing is it'll be 72 degrees. You won't have to sit in 24 degrees like in Bozeman last weekend.
What would you say to a fan who maybe hasn't purchased season tickets several years, is thinking about it now? What would you say to that?
I think this is an exciting time to get on board. I think we have plenty of them left, so get them now, because we're going to make this the place to be in fall in northern Idaho, to come down to the Kibbie Dome and watch an exciting product on the team that the guys who compete play their tails off and makes you proud as an alum. And I think it's fun to have the teams in this. When I was here coaching, we were playing in the Sun Belt one of the years. We're playing Troy State, playing Middle Tennessee State. I think it's even more fun when you're playing the Montanas and the Montana States, the Eastern Washington. I saw the trophy now with playing Idaho State. I think those regional rivalries are fun and exciting to compete against those teams. And for a recruit who's within a 6-hour radius of campus, it's nice to know that not only will you be able to come to every, have your parents come to every home game, but be able to travel to a bunch of games in the region to watch you play on the road as well. And I think that's a neat thing for families to know they can do that with their son.
Been a lot of improvement the last several years in academics in the football program. Could you speak to what you and your staff will do to sort of keep that running in that direction?
I was very impressed here, just meeting with the academic staff today. It's a big time operation. And again, a lot of the support staff areas here, I think one of the things that make it attractive is when they made the transition, from FBS to FCS, they didn't cut out, like the academic staff wasn't stripped. There's 2 more full-time people working in academics than the staff that I've been around the last place. So the commitment they've made to helping these guys do well in athletics is tremendous. And our guys, because I believe there's a big correlation between, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if guys are taking care of their business and doing the right things off the field, both in the community, acting right in school, getting things turned out on time, making sure they're in class all the time. Those good habits will carry over. So when we ask them to make a key block on a 4th down to beat Montana to win the conference championship, they're used to doing what they're supposed to do. So because of that, we're going to have our staff stay on top of the guys and keep that academic standard. We want our team GPA to be above 3.0 every semester.
I watch these guys practice every day for the last 5 years. They practice hard. How are they different from those Jackson kids? What's it going to take to get that 7 points to beat Davis or Montana?
Well, I think in a lot of close games, things come down to coaching. We got to put guys in the right positions to be successful. We got to make sure that we're keeping guys, fresh throughout a long season. I think that was something to really navigate in FCS football with the back-to-back seasons. The kids we were around played 25 games in a calendar year, which is kind of crazy. I don't know who the last people to play 25 football games in a calendar year. So you got to do some things with your conditioning and also how you're taking care of their bodies to make sure that they stay fresh. You have to be very good in situational football because a lot of those close games come down to playing things right in situations, which again is setting things up in practice to know those game situations. 3rd down, red zone, and even the more rare ones that come up, once a year, that can be a factor in winning those games. And fundamentals win. When you're playing, good versus good, in those close battles, a lot of times the team who has the best fundamentals, the team that protects the ball better and limits turnovers, the team that, makes fewer mistakes with, foolish penalties. A lot of times those are the teams who win games. And again, I think those are all things that factor into, coaching. Our staff has to do a great job of teaching and developing our guys and preparing themselves for those game situations. Because even though a game is 150 plays, a lot of times you can narrow it down to maybe 10 plays that decide the game, and you got to have your kids ready for those 10 plays. Galen, how you doing? Very good.
I'm sorry we can't have this. I'm sure your wife and your family are all happy to be indoors in the winter. Can you comment on what you've seen, and you haven't had time to immerse yourself totally in all the facilities and the changes, how it compares with the top echelon in the FCS?
I think we have a lot of great things here. I mean, this basketball arena has got to be one of the best, FCS level school basketball arenas in the country. I mean, this is a top-notch facility that's beautiful. Seeing that we just got new turf down in the practice fields is very exciting. The renovations that have been done to the Kibbe Dome in the last 15 years with getting some of the natural light in there and getting the, some of the club areas and the boxes. I mean, that's all very, very impressive, good things. I think the one thing you have to navigate a little bit is just, the times of the year when the turf's, up, when the track's being built. That's probably, maybe the one little obstacle, but they've assured me they're going to be good with clearing off the snow off the practice field so we can get guys out there throwing and working on the game, as soon as the weather's decent. So, thank you.
It's early days, but do you have initial thoughts about what Idaho's team's going to look like next fall, both offensively and defensively? What are you going to do with these guys?
I really think one of the things you have to do in coaching is you have to build the team around the players you have and what they can do. So that's going to be a work in progress of evaluating our current players. The one thing, and I think it's a good change now with the transfer portal, just like a coach can leave and go to another school, the players can too. And I think that's right. I think if I have the chance to go to a different school, they should have a chance to go to a different school. But because of that, there's a little bit more roster management and making sure where your holes are in your roster as guys move on and guys come in. But what we have to do first is look at who are the players we have in place, what those guys can do, see how those guys fit together. Offensively, I want to find out who our best skill players are, and then with those skill players, how can we line up with them? If running back's a great area of depth, we got to make sure we can find some formations where we can line up with two tailbacks and run some plays that fit to their skill sets and use them. And that's something I firmly believe in. We got to build it around what guys can do, and it's not, this is the system and we got to fit the guys into this system. It's trying to build our system around what guys can do to put them in the best situation to win, and that's offensively and defensively. So it's really personnel based of getting to know our players, evaluating them, seeing where we have guys we need to highlight, and then also building a great coaching staff that can believe in these players, can love these players, and help them grow and help them improve.
You mentioned the transfer portal and how important is it to build this
Yeah, and again, I really want to build with high school players, but you're going to have it, you're going to have some times where you have to, complement your roster and get transfers. Last year, the school I was at, we played in the national championship game in May, and our starting quarterback tears his ACL in the national championship game. And now you're playing a fall season 5 months away, so we had to go into the transfer portal, and we were able to find a good quarterback that led us, almost as far, led us to the semifinals. So there's going to be certain times where we're going to have to navigate that just to make sure you're not under, make sure you're not going into a season where you're under your allotted scholarships, under your allotted players. So I think you have to have familiarity with and be able to, manage your roster with it. But I still think the key in FCS football is player development. It's getting young men in here who maybe are a little further from their peak than some of their peers, and that's why they're going to FCS schools. And then you develop them and get them to their full potential over the course of 5 years. And now when we're going to play those schools like Washington State and Indiana, they're asking, man, how'd you get this guy? Well, he wasn't like that when he was 18, but now he is, because we recruited the right kind of kid who really worked his tail off and invested in this program. And now he's a different animal, at 22, 23 than he was at 18.
Yeah, you mentioned, recruiting the area, and obviously there's a lot of athletes in Idaho and Washington as well. I guess how do you kind of find those gems in this state or in Washington?
Well, I think it comes down to relationships. You got to have good relationships. I have contacts like Ryan Knowles, who's the head coach at Sandpoint High School. He down here sitting at the press conference, who I know well, and he's already sharing with me the directory of every high school football coach in the state of Idaho with their cell phone number and email. Okay, so I can get out to those guys and get in touch with those guys, so our staff can hit the ground running. And getting some guys in our coaching staff who have connections to this region. And, again, there's a couple former players, Tracy Ford, Reggie Jones, who are players here when I coached here the first time, who are now doing training facilities out in the western part of Washington, where there's a lot of good football players. And those are guys who are, they know all the best players in the area. They're working with them. They know the strengths and their weaknesses. And, they're guys who, if, we need a receiver who can run, or a defensive end who can rush the passer. When I tell them that, they're going to have a list for me of about 3 guys out there who can do that stuff. So it's a lot of those connections and visiting with the high school coaches, visiting with your contacts, and getting a good start on those guys. And again, I think one of the advantages, going back to like the question about University of Idaho, this is a campus you want to get people to. We want to, get kids when they're to come here, their junior year in high school in the spring, come on a junior day, visit the campus, see everything about the school, because it's not just the sell of football, it's the sell of the education. Again, you see the signs about being one of the top value in the West for education. I think that's something that can sell parents in addition to the kids. So it's making that recruiting process a long time, where you're getting those closer bonds with the kids, getting them back for our summer camps in June.
Can you talk a little bit about putting your staff together? Are you close? Are you going to entertain anybody from the current staff? Or just where?
Yeah, I'm going to sit down with all the members of the current staff. There's a few guys who I know are coming. We still have to sign the paperwork and do those little tidbits of it. And then there's some other ones that I'm vetting, that I'm talking to. One thing that I think the pandemic helped us with is this Zoom. Now I'm an expert on Zoom, so you don't necessarily have to fly a guy in to interview him. You can get him on Zoom and get him on a grease board, and he's going over his teaching progression and things, and what he wants to institute on defense or offense. And again, I'd rather be patient. The recruiting period our players come back. The first day classes is the 12th. The recruiting period starts the 13th, and we can go on the road. So I don't want to rush to make hires. I want to make sure we're getting the right hires, because again, this is we're committing to these kids to put them in the best possible situation. But it's going to be a blend of guys who know the region, a blend of guys who I know and trust, who I've worked with, or I've seen their work on film over time, so that we put a great staff. And then tomorrow, I'm meeting with all the coaches here who I've been in their shoes. I was in that shoes when Coach Aiken came in here and Coach Erickson left. So again, I have empathy towards those guys that be in that situation. That's a tough situation. I got 5 kids. I've been in that situation where you have kids and things, and you're trying to figure things out. So again, I want to visit with those guys and kind of let them know where they're at tomorrow, so they're not I'm not hanging them on a thread or something. I'm letting them know, being honest with them, let them know where they stand.
What are some things, going back to when you were here that first time, what are some things you remember from that, or maybe you learned just on the young about that?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I remember the passion of the fan base. I remember, the excitement there. I remember I think, Nick really valued energy in the coaching staff and having guys who are enthusiastic with the players and, motivating those guys to practice every day and also, motivating the coaches to do a great job recruiting every day. And again, I really think that the start we kind of got on, and then Dennis came in and kept it going. We're helpers. Obviously, Coach Akey did a great job getting the team to a bowl game there in, I believe, 2008 or 2009. But I kind of felt like that ground. I was there for seeing that ground floor when those guys were recruited, and a lot of those guys that became great players here. David Vibora from Oregon ends up being drafted, and Adam Corby ends up being a first-team All-WAC center. Mike Ayupati ends up being a first-round draft pick. Eddie Williams ends up being a pro. Just a lot of guys who went on to do really well and were good players that I was involved with in the recruiting process of those guys. So I think you need a lot of energy, I think, to ignite this Jackrabbit fan base and get these players going and get recruiting going. But a lot of great memories. And again, I feel like I've seen the pathway to getting this thing going. Now, again, over the past few years, the past 20 years, it's been sustaining, where in the 90s and 80s, they were sustained in FCS football, having, playoffs multiple years in a row. The problem in that FBS era is, you had the trips to a bowl game and then you had droughts. You weren't able to string that together. But that's the goal, to become a perennial team that's competing for the playoffs every year and going multiple years, just like back in the days of, John Freeze, who I got a chance to Zoom with last night. And, that was a fun time in the 80s and 90s. And I remember when I was here as a young assistant, I liked, hearing those stories of those teams and those trips. And, I really love FCS football. I think it's a great product. I think it's a great blend of, what college sports was meant to be, where students are still student athletes. It's not, their lives are not 100% football. We're not funneling them into certain majors that are easy, and they can accomplish great things on and off the field.
It looks like you guys at the top of the Missouri Valley Conference kind of build your teams from the line back. And once you get a good line, you can do anything else you want to do to get together. How important is that for you?
I think that's pretty important in all of football. I think that's huge. I think football starts at the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't really matter what offense you want to run, whether you need to throw it, you want to throw it all the time, you want to run it all the time. You better have a good offensive line. They can move people, they can protect the quarterback. So I think that's where it starts, and that's I think you have to play good complementary football. You got to make sure that your offense complements your defense, that your special team complements them both, and it all fits together. Because I think you see some offenses where they're trying to set a record for yards, but it doesn't always equate to points. You got to make sure that when you run the ball, when you're good at the line of scrimmage, that helps your defense, not just in spring ball, not just in fall camp when they're going against your offense, but it shortens the game for them. They play less plays during the game, so they're fresher, so they can play harder. And I really believe complementary football is a key to being successful. At FCS football, I think you look, all four of the semifinalists do a good job of that in FCS football. Are there any questions from the people on Zoom here, Jared? You got a hand.
Darren, do you have a question for Coach?
Yeah. Hi, Coach. My question was, last season, we had the quarterback competition going into the season. And you mentioned you watching film this year between CJ and Giovanni and Zach and the recent recruit of Ridge. Can we expect another quarterback competition going into this season?
Yeah, I think all those guys are going to get a fresh start and get evaluated by our staff and who gives us the best chance to win. But I thought those guys competed on film, in those two games, and was impressed. I think we have some ability there. Both running and throwing the ball. I thought that you saw both of that there. And I think that, when you can have a dual threat quarterback, I think that adds a lot to making defenses defend you. But excited about that group. I think there's definitely some talent there that we can work with in that group.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else? Well, thank you guys very much. Again, I'm honored to be the head coach here. And again, we are all in this together. Okay, we are all part of Mantle football, and the future here is going to be very bright. But get on board, be a part of it. We need you. We need your support. Our players need your support. They need you here in the seats come fall, and give you some great days ahead. Thank you very much. We're thankful for everybody for coming in.